Okay, so after we have created a calculated column, let's say, for instance, you want to calculate the average of all the values of that particular calculated age so that you can get the average age of all the employees in your dataset. So with that, you need to have a measure. Now, in Power BI, when we think about a measure, it can be done in two ways. One is through an explicit measure, and the second one is through an implicit measure. Okay, let's do the explicit measure first. When we say an explicit measure, it is a measure that is created using a formula in a calculation area. For instance, in this case, let's create a measure. This is what we call the calculation area. So I think it's very familiar to you right now. It's similar to what is uh, a function or formula bar in Excel. So in this case, let me just assign a measure name, for instance, average edad. Okay, and then we compute using a formula called average of the calculated age. Sorry. All right. So it simply computes for the average of all the ages in that calculated column, which is labeled as calculate underscore age. So if we check the value of that average, it provides an average value. Now, remember that since we are creating a measure here and in DAX, when we say create a measure, you are going to create a new calculated value such as this one, the average, and the result will depend on the context. Okay? So unlike the calculated column, which is dependent on the value of the row, this one, the measure will be dependent on the context. It is normally used for reporting. For instance, in this case, we have computed the average age of all employees in our dataset. But if we try to filter out according to certain contexts, such as, for instance, non-teaching, so basically it will dynamically change based on the context of the filter. That is how you create an explicit measure.